So in this video, I'm going to talk about Plotinus and emanation. Okay, and so we see that in Plotinus we have the one, we have we have intelligence or nous, and then you have soul. So how are these three related? Well, they're related by processes called emanation, and then they're also related by another process called return. Okay, and emanation in the Greek is protos, and for return it is epistrophe. Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about emanation. So if you recall with the one is absolutely simple. So it has no parts. It's not dependent on composite parts, right? Because it is absolutely first. So it is that from which everything else comes. So from the one comes multiplicity, right? So the one it brings about the nous, right? And the nous, remember, it's a realm of the forms, and from the nous comes soul. All right, so again, we'll just put this here. So the one emanates, and the one's emanation produces nous, and then the nous's emanation produces soul. Okay, and it's from this level of simplicity that you begin to get multiplicity. Okay, and if you think about any sort of metaphysics or what we're doing here, we're trying to actually get some sort of understanding for how to understand the whole, everything that exists, right? So if you believe, say, in God or the divine, you believe in the world, human beings, you believe in trees, whatever. You're trying to figure out how is basically everything related. That's really the question here. And so, in some way, you're asking the question of how do we get the many from the one, right? How do we get multiplicity from simplicity? So the process of emanation is a process of overflowing. That means the one overflows. Now, and so Plotinus uses the word potent simplicity, and potent means powerful. Okay, so this powerful simplicity overflows, and the overflow of the one produces the nous, and then the nous overflows into the soul. Now, the reverse process of this is the process of return, and that's when, so this one that's overflowing then returns everything, so it calls everything back to itself through a process of desire, right? Everything is desiring and striving to return to the good. So on this side you have overflowing, and then on this side of the return, you have desire that's motivating this return. Okay, so everything in some way desires the good. So that's an interesting philosophy, this idea that everything desires the good. Okay, that means that what Plotinus essentially is saying, that everything that exists in some way is part of this flow, right? And so that is one interesting way to look at life. And so this process of emanation from the one to the nous to the soul, and process of return give us an equilibrium. Okay, now, but one thing to note is that emanation is not a way of talking about creation or origins of the cosmos. So emanation is not equal to the origins of the cosmos, which is the universe. Okay, so the process does explain how things come to be, as in say things in our created world, right? When nous overflows into soul, yeah, then you get embodied beings, like we'll talk about. But the this process of emanation and return, okay, is not necessarily an explanation of how the cosmos came into being. The cosmos is eternal in Plotinus's view. So this process is without beginning or end. Okay, emanation return is a process without beginning or end. So we said from the one emanates nous, and then from nous emanates soul. Now the question is, does the soul itself emanate? And so it does. The emanations of soul are embodied life. Okay. Now, but the process stops here because these cannot emanate because they are too weak. Right. So you don't really get any further emanations from embodied life. So embodied life would include things, like you, me, trees, rocks, cars, etc. We're too weak to emanate. And so the process stops with us. And at the edge of existence is matter. So that's the furthest limit of emanation. So emanation, which starts right here, and goes down here, and goes to the soul and to embodied life. At the furthest reaches of emanation, you have matter. And matter is on the brink of being and non-being. Okay, so this is the process of emanation. It starts with simplicity, and it's how simplicity leads to multiplicity, how you get the many from the one, right? And so you see a process that begins with the one and then moves all the way down to matter. But also what it shows us here is how everything is connected in some way, but how some things seem to be more central to existence than others, right? So here you can see how our world of experience, though important, is in some way less than some broader concepts. For instance, the ultimate reality, the realm of the forms, but that is subordinate to one. And when you think about this metaphysically, there's something that makes sense about this. You cannot think of certain things about the human person without thinking of us being unified, or you need certain concepts to make for the human person to make sense. So when you think about how the ideas and what's important to have in terms of trying to make sense of our world, you realize that some concepts are more important and more fundamental, and that without those you can't actually make sense of this life. And so this is what Plotinus is getting at here, right, is that our world of experience can't end, or well, our understanding of the world of existence can't end here where our experience is. Rather, we have to realize that there are certain concepts and things that have to make our experience possible. And even those also depend on ultimately one concept, which is that of utter simplicity, the one, and the good. Okay, so this is the process of emanation from one down to the many, down to matter, and explains how everything in some ways connected to the one.